guys, how's it going? So I was at work the other day and I had a coworker come up to me knowing that I'm an avid fisherman and ask me what essential gear they should get for ice fishing. So that led me to thinking that maybe we here at Surf Fish a Lot should do a video series on an introduction to ice fishing. So obviously, I'm not shy about it. I'm from Manitoba, Canada. And Manitoba, Canada, there's a big city called Winnipeg. Winnipeg has a bit of a nickname. It's Winterpeg, or at least that's what I know it as. It's cold. It can get really cold. It can get to minus 50 Celsius once the wind chills up and the wind's blowing pretty good. So minus 50 Celsius is more cold than it gets hot here in the summertime as far as extremes go and weather. So you get lots of practice out on the ice. So my knowledge base, which I'm going to share to you, comes from experiencing those kinds of conditions. Now, I typically focus on smaller lakes when I'm ice fishing. And with that being said, my experience with ice safety will be limited to the lakes that I frequent. So that knowledge that I give you, if you're from the area or you're on lakes that are a little bit smaller, this information will be very relevant to you, especially if you're just getting started. So this is a purely educational, informational series. Even if you're an avid ice fisherman, I might do things a bit differently, and we could maybe learn from there. And if you feel like there's anything that I have missed, don't forget to comment down below, because this series is for the new ice fisher person. So I've always preferred ice fishing to open water fishing. Sounds kind of strange to say, mostly because I've spent most of my life as a shore fisherman. So as a shore fisherman, if I wanted to target specific structure or locations or areas on a lake, I had to wait until the water froze in order to get access to those locations. So this could be very relevant for that kind of individual who doesn't have access to, say, a boat, or respects private property owners and doesn't just help themselves to walking across property that isn't theirs. So I'm going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about many different aspects of gear. So ice fishing, some of the most important things are safety. If you're getting out on early ice, and early ice I typically think is 4 inches of ice. For me personally, that's my safety threshold. I like 4 inches before I'll venture onto the ice. 4 inches of ice can hold up to 300 pounds in a square foot. That's my comfort zone. I know a lot of other people like to go on a bit thinner. That's their comfort zone. I respect that. I'm not going to go out there and judge people and say, hey, you shouldn't be out there. The ice is too thin. So some things you'll see in lots of videos. Some floating ice picks. So they go around your neck. They sit right here. They're shoved into each other. Their handles, their foam, so they float. And if you ever fall through the ice, you grab them, you pick through. And if your elbows will keep you above ice, typically, you have your picks, and then you just pick your way up and out and float around on top of the ice until you get to some safe ice. The other thing is a float suit, or if you don't have access to the funds for a float suit, you can get a very affordable used life jacket, and that could be another safety thing that you can do. I have a strong belief that if you're out ice fishing, comfort is probably my most important thing for ice fishing. I have a strong belief, and I've fished with enough people to realize that once your feet get cold, you're done. Go home. Because once your feet are cold, your body's just going to get cold. And then you're not going to have an enjoyable time. And if you're not enjoying ice fishing, I think that that negative experience will stop you from wanting to go out anymore with it. So I highly recommend a really top-notch, top-quality pair of boots. Now, I personally I'm a heavy dude. I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm about 260 pounds. I'm 6 foot tall. So I have weak ankles. And I like a style of boot called a pack boot. And it really helps with ankle support. So when you're slipping and sliding out on the ice, because water plus ice means it's super, super slick. The other thing away around that is if you get ice cleats for your boots. But I don't have those myself personally. So a good pair of boots, something that's rated for us here, minus 40 Celsius is something that I would target. Now the brand that I have is Cabela's pack boots. I've had them for quite a few years. I guess now we have to say Bass Pro Shops because that's happened. So their brand is perfectly fine. I mean, whatever is within your price range, but boots is one thing I would not skip out on as far as cost. Then the other things, ski pants or bibs, whatever you want to call them. And then a good winter coat, something that's windproof, would be absolutely essential. The other thing I want to say about apparel is you want to dress in layers. Absolutely, layers. So your base layer, you want something that's wicking. And what I mean by that is a fabric that's designed to pull the sweat away from your body. So a sporting apparel, typically they're polyester. They can be a little stinky after a while. But the polyester stuff will wick stuff away. And then I would probably go with a wool layer because wool will keep you warm even when it's cold. I think, fact check me on that one. That's a rumor. Could be true. But I've always found wool socks to be pretty good even if your feet get a little sweaty. So those are some of the dangers when you're going out ice fishing when you're in a cold temperature, sweating. Sweat is an absolute killer. So once you start working and start moving your gear around, walking across the ice, trudging through the snow, you'll start working up a sweat. So be careful about that, and that's why I said dress in layers, because you can always remove a layer when you start getting warm, and then when you start getting cold, you can always put a layer back on. So investing in your clothes. Now there's some companies that have battery powered heated vests and things like that. That can be super helpful if you find yourself to be a person who cannot tolerate cold. I recommend investing in those. I've seen some people dressing what I would consider rather light until I found out that they have a heated vest on. So heated socks also. If you've watched any of our previous videos on ice fishing with Ryan and I, Ryan's a person who can't tolerate the cold very well. So he's got battery powered heated socks, and that's helped him to enjoy ice fishing a little bit more. So in thinking of this video series, a couple things that I wanted to touch on were the gear required for ice fishing. Now, this goes towards how much money you have, or let me rephrase that, how large of a budget you have and how much you're willing to spend on gear, because obviously the sky's the limit. Since I've started ice fishing, my dad took me out as the leader of Cubs. I think was my first experience ice fishing. I was probably around 11, 12. I had a literal stick with line wrapped around it. That was my rod. I didn't have a reel. There was no such thing when I started ice fishing. So you can go something as basic as that. I've seen some pretty ingenious things where some people will get the lure to the depth they want underneath the ice, and they'll have it tied to a milk crate or a milk jug. The jug's empty, but once the fish takes that hook and starts swimming away with it, the jug will slide across the surface of the ice. So you don't have to break the bank by going out and getting, like $150 ice fishing rods. But saying that, having a rod, if you do land a trophy-sized fish, your chances of landing that fish do increase exponentially. So I've got I'm pretty sure it was purchased at Walmart, but I have a Celsius brand ice fishing rod. Let me go get it, actually. Okay. So I have a Celsius brand ice fishing rod. This one's black ice. My dad got it for me for Christmas quite a few years ago. I'm pretty sure it was purchased at Walmart, and it probably wasn't overly expensive at the time. I know the price of everything's gone up after COVID and during COVID. And then I have it paired with a small, I think this is a 1,000 size reel for summer stuff. So this is a medium heavy rod, and I've used this rod right here I'm holding in particular has caught me my most trophies through the ice, but I have used it the most. So catch 22, there's a correlation there. Having the reel for ice fishing, I think, is very beneficial. Just having a drag system where the line can go in and out. So instead of having your line wrapped, you have to manually act as the drag, or if you have a tip up or a flag or a pop up, you are the drag when you're pulling line. So different methods for different species of fish as well. So that's something I'm not going to talk about in this particular series as far as different methods of fishing, but I'm going to talk about the gear. So you have your rod and reel. You can use a stick with line just wrapped all the way around the end with your hook on the end of it. Or you can use tip ups and flags. I'll show you what I mean by tip ups and flags. So this is a tip up to me. It's got a flag system that will go off. The way it works, it's pretty simple, pretty ingenious. It's got a reel here on the bottom with all your line. Now this goes inside the water on top of the hole, and then it's got a piece here that spins, and this spins the reel at the bottom. So what happens is it's got two sensitivity levels on it. So I've got a bar here where you can see this is a thinner sensitivity, or a more sensitive, and then this is a less sensitive. So you flip your flag over, okay? Then you spin your sensitivity guide and you rest your flag into that notch. So what happens is when a fish comes to take the bait, oh dear, I've got a mess here. The flag pops up, and then you watch for the flag to pop up. Okay? So that's a tip up style. These, you don't need to spend an arm and a leg on these. I like this style personally. It's perfect for an 8-inch hole. Would I get it for a 10-inch hole? No, because it's not big enough round for a 10-inch hole. Some people like to modify them and add insulation in them. I like it as it is. I haven't had the problem with them freezing. And again, you act as the drag. So you're pulling the line yourself and letting the line out as the fish wants to go on a run. So this is an absolutely fantastic, in my opinion, second line system instead of your main line. And this I would use dominantly for pike fishing. So when you're hunting for big trophy pike and you're setting up like a big Cisco smelt, this is what I would use for that sort of a system and that kind of a target. Next we have, now you probably, if you've been watching any YouTube, you've been seeing a lot of these for ice fishing. This is called a jaw jacker. These are a workaround, I guess, so to speak. So in Manitoba, you're not allowed to use any auto setters. And what an auto setter is a device that will automatically set the hook. So you can be away from the line, kind of in your shack, doing whatever, cooking breakfast, cooking up some bacon, and have an auto setter out, and it'll set the hook for you, and then you just, kind of like the tip up does. Then you can go out, reel in the fish and whatever. So the jaw jacker works with a rod. Okay, so already you have the drag system. You set this up. First off, this is your saddle. Your line goes down. Yeah, I'll do it like this. So this is your saddle. This is your trigger mechanism. And this is what makes the system work and go off. You have a tensioner here, and the tensioner is your sensitivity check. So if you have a really light bite, say like from a trout, you want your tensioner set pretty loose. So this device acts kind of the same way as the flag. You put it out, you set it up with your bait at the depth that you want your bait to be at. You put your rod inside of it and just wait for it to go off. Now, this is, in my opinion, the best system for ice fishing that is legally available in Manitoba. Okay, there's Finicky Foolers, there's iFish Pros. I've even made my own sort of dead stick contraption that's somewhat similar to this, but it doesn't have the auto setting technique to it, and I'll show that to you as well. And I'll go over that setup right after the jaw jacker. So this is the premier, in my opinion. You get to use your rod for a really, really lethargic, sensitive bite. This is going to help you to land more fish, in my opinion, from what I have experienced and observed myself. They fold up compactly. I haven't had one break on me yet, but I have heard some people saying that these have snapped on big fish. They are pricey, but you can get them on sale around Black Friday for about 50% off. And I think you don't have to get them, but if you have the budget and you're interested in ice fishing long term, I do recommend picking one of these up. It will allow you to catch more fish. And you know, even if let's say you find fishing a little boring, you got some buddies, you're playing cards or something like that, or you're farting around on your cell phone, this is still going to work to allow you to catch fish. Let's even just say you're in a hub, you're fortunate enough to be in a shanty, and you're doing some work on a laptop. This will still help you to catch fish while you're doing that work. So this would be one of my should-haves, or put it high on your wish list. Then there's dead sticks. And a dead stick, you don't do anything with it. So a dead stick is like a rod that you've got set up, and you got your bait down, and you let the fish come and take it, and you let the rod tip hook the fish on its own. It's a step down from a jaw jacker, but it still works just as good. Maybe not for a super sensitive bite, but for a more aggressive bite like your typical walleye, perch, northern pike. Yeah, those species, this system will work. So here it is. I've made my own system. This system was before I got into jaw jackers. And the way I did this was I had some scrap wood sitting around. I had a reel from a broken rod, and I found a rod blank sitting out on a river bend, not doing anything, just a broken rod. Okay, so this cost me you could call this, let's just call this a junkyard find or build. Okay, so this cost me almost nothing. And the base, I had some scrap pieces of metal. So the way that this system works is, here's your base. Okay, the rod slides right into the base here, just like that. Okay, see? And this is a dead stick. It sits right in front of the hole. Okay, your lure comes out of the tip down into the hole at the depth that you want, and then you just leave it and let the live minnow, is typically how you would set this up, do the work for you as a bait. Okay, so that cost me nothing, and I've caught probably more fish on a dead stick than I have on an active jigging stick. Okay, here's another thing you can do. If you get a nice rod, you can get a rod holder. Okay, so rod holder, very simple. The butt goes in here. Okay, rod slides into there. and then you watch the tip for the nibble. Okay? This has a couple benefits. This is exactly like a dead stick. You get your own rod to use, just like the other system that I made. Not everybody has the ability to do so. You get to watch the rod tip. It's easy to grab the rod right out of the holder. Okay, there's different styles and designs. I like this one personally. I just like keeping my rod horizontally so that when I'm watching the tip go, I can even see if I have a sensitive rod on. I can watch if I have a live minnow. I can just watch the minnow bouncing the tip, and then you'll see the bend of a fish. And then you've again got your rod and your reels for the fight. Okay, so that can having access to a rod and reel really helps you to land more fish. Is how I would say that. Your chances of breaking off decrease exponentially when you're using a rod and reel combination. So that's rod setups. We've gone through rod setups, we've gone through apparel. Let's talk about how you get access to the ice. Now there's multiple ways that we can do this, okay? Budget friendly. If you see me out on the ice and you come up to me and say, hey buddy, can I get some holes drilled? I'm going to drill you holes all day long, okay? I don't have a problem with it. Most fishermen that I know aren't going to have a problem with it. And the nice thing about that is they're probably going to drill the holes for you in a location they're comfortable with you fishing, but they're also going to try and get you on fish with the location they're going to put you on too, typically, okay? So some people are grumpy, some people don't want to be bothered. Go on to the next person. That costs you a question, $0, okay? That's if you just want to get started and you don't have much of a budget. The second thing is Facebook Marketplace, okay? Go to Facebook Marketplace, look for a used hand auger. It's going to cost you anywhere from $20 to $60, okay? Just make sure the blades are sharp. Good to go. And you know, when Ryan and I first started ice fishing together, that's the way that Ryan operated. He had his hand auger. Now my dad, I'm fortunate enough, my dad has a gas ice auger. Is an Eskimo Stingray. I think he got it for about $250 quite a few years ago. Still works great, okay? A little finicky though. I'm not a super great guy with small motors, so you have to learn how to use it well. I also bought a used Model 30 Jiffy. Couldn't get that thing to start, keep it running, so I went the way of an electric auger, okay? I have a Strikemaster 40 volt. I absolutely love it. It is pricey though, okay? They're about $1,000 with a 2 battery kit. So, but I know I'm going to use it and get my money back out of it from the experiences, the adventure, and the fish that I'm going to keep now or into the future. So it's an investment that I think it's worth it. Personally, you can get, if you have a cordless drill, there are bits that you can put on there. I think one's called a K drill. There's different models too. You have different brands. Now you can also get used ones off of Facebook Marketplace as far as that goes if you want an electric auger, or if your budget is restricting you from that option, you can also find gas augers on Facebook Marketplace, or you can find yourself some pretty good deals on gas augers usually, because what's happening now, what I notice in the fishing community is gas is on its way out, I guess is how I would say that, or not as popular of a choice amongst ice fishermen. It's really easy to charge a battery, plunk that battery in, and just hit a button and go. You're not pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. However, I will say this. Ryan got himself a Rapala gas auger a couple years ago, and he buys the absolute premium pre-done mix fuel. He has absolutely no problems. He puts the gas in, primes it, pulls, starts, drills, beautifully done. So like I don't want to crap on gas augers here. I'm not that kind of a guy. Whatever works, whatever gets you a hole punch through the ice, is going to make things easier. Now, the other thing too that I like to dabble in once in a while is a sight hole, depending on water clarity. So if I'm going to say Clear Lake, Manitoba, it's named Clear Lake because the water is clear. A sight hole can really, really enhance your ice fishing experience. So in the summertime when you're looking down, it can be hard to see down through the water because of all the wind blowing in and water ripples and everything like that. And then you've got the sun and you've got the glare off the top of the surface of the water. In an ice shack, you don't have any of that. There's no wind and there's almost no glare at all, unless you have lights shining down, because you'll have in your tent, your hub, you'll have all the windows closed so you can see down through and the light penetrating through the top of the ice. It can be a really wonderful experience. So I would suggest a Nils ice saw for that. I have done it with a auger, and I just do holes all the way around, and that works too. Then I use a milk crate just to scoop out all the slush and stuff, and it works really well that way. Very beautiful experience. I have some videos if you want to go through some of our past videos here on the channel. You can see Ryan and I with a nice hole at Clear Lake. We've got at Coursterfeen Lake, and then I've also done some at Twin Lakes as well. So another way to punch a hole through the ice, you can use a hand axe, and it works really well for early ice when the ice isn't very thick. You can also punch a hole through using a spud bar. Now a spud bar is something that you can use for your safety kit as well. So a spud bar is just a long metal bar, and it has a chipper on the end. So that chipper blade, you use it to smack the ice. You go ta, ta, ta. So the general rule of thumb on early ice with a spud bar is for every hit, that's how roughly an inch worth of depth in the ice. So da, 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 da. You don't punch through, you've got more than 4 inches of ice, you're safe. Okay, so that could be part of your safety kit. I don't use it, and the reason is because when I walk out onto the ice, I just use my auger. Hit my button, drill through, see what the thickness is. But I'm well into the community as well, so I can ask people, you can also ask people thickness of the ice on certain lakes, but be careful with that, because it's always best to find out on your own as well. So you can ask for ice reports on groups. I think the fishing community on 24/7 Southwestern Manitoba fishing is a great bunch of people who are honest and want to see everyone else have as much success as they're having. So you can use that to your advantage as well. So we've talked about rods, augers, apparel. We can talk about hubs. Okay. There's many different names. There's hubs, shelters, flipovers, hard shacks, shanties, whatever word you want to call. It's a structure allowing you to get out of the wind and potentially stay warm as well. So if you check through the previous videos, I have a clam flip over. Okay, I love it. It's a Nanook. It was worn out. The original tenting I upgraded to a quilted tenting. I added about 30 pounds worth of weight, and the reason why that's important is because I used to walk across the ice manually and haul this stuff. So weight is one big thing. So if you're walking out a kilometer across a lake, right, you don't want to be carrying 500 pounds worth of gear. You're gonna be too tired to even drill a hole by the time you get to where you want to fish. So weight's one thing to keep into consideration. So I took the seats out of the clam because I found that the bars were just a little too heavy, and I just use a lawn chair. So the clam flip over is good for 2 people. It's light. It has its own sled or toboggan, whatever you want to call it, and that's what I use to stay warm, haul my gear, and fish out of. I have it set up so that I can haul it with a snowmobile. I am fortunate enough now to have a snowmobile. So Ryan has the Otter Vortex. I think it's a Monster Lodge. So every company has its own sizing scheme. I think Eskimo goes by like 600, or Clam goes by that size. You got your 400s, your 600s. You've got your doubles. If you have a budget and you're looking at some ways to save money, you can save money on a shelter. Things you're looking for, okay? You're looking for a good quality pole system, because you don't want to be out on the ice and then have your pole system fail on you from the wind, okay? The other thing you want to pay attention to is, I am a big fan of insulated shacks. You save so much on heat. And that's the next thing we'll get into, is heaters. You'll save so much on heat from having an insulated shack. And just going back to my first comment, the most important thing in my opinion is comfort for ice fishing. If you're only going out for a couple hours, you can just stay outside and have a great time, usually. But if you're planning on an all-day fish, comfort, that's really key. And especially if you're taking somebody who's cold, I really recommend the either a flip over or a tent, or if you have access to a friend who might have a hard shack, perfect. The only thing is, with a hard shack, mobility can be an issue. So ice fishing is a little bit like summertime fishing, where you got to cover some water in order to find where the fish are at. But it depends if you're going out for a good time or you're going out to fish. So that's on you. You get to pick and choose there. Brand wise, I'm not loyal to any brand. They all work. Ryan had an Eskimo. It was fantastic. It worked really well for 3 people. He upgraded because he wanted to start doing overnighters. So it is kind of a big ice tent. However, I think he's happy with the purchase. So you don't have to go with an Otter. You don't have to go with a Clam. You don't have to go with an Eskimo. You can go with a Woods Canadian Tire brand. You can go with a Bass Pro Shops brand. So things to look for are zippers. Make sure the zippers work good, because you don't want to have a zipper failure when it's minus 40 outside. That would just be disastrous. You might as well pack up and go home. There isn't a whole lot to say about tents as far as that goes. Like, my experience is, if you're looking at a tent, you're going out with a couple of buddies, whenever it says 2 people, it's really 1. Whenever it says 3 people, it's really 2. Whenever it says 4 people, it's really 2. Like, other things too, height wise, the taller it is, the more you have to heat. The shorter it is, the more it's going to keep heat in. If you're okay bending over, most of the time you're going to be sitting anyways. You want, they've got a lot of extra doodads that you can get to for accessories, like where all the rods for the shack go. There's hubs in the middle. You can add pieces there, like rod holders, rattle reels. Companies have made trays that you can set up on the side. There's mesh baskets, things you can add, lighting kits if you're fishing at night. So the sky's the limit really as far as what you can get there. But for me personally, I like to keep things as simple as possible. Like I said, hauling the gear across the lake, walking. You want to go as light as possible, and you make that sacrifice of comfort versus ease of use, I guess would be. So making a decision there. and you can make that decision there. As far as a hard shack, you've got your Yeti, your Ice Castle that you can rent. Lots of outfitters will rent them out for a weekend. I've built hard shacks too. I've gotten 2 of them. So I built one with my dad. We didn't film that one. Ryan and I built one out of recycled, repurposed materials. It's probably our most watched video series on this channel so far. It was a fun experience. My finger's still sore from it. But you can do things like that too and keep your costs down. I think that thing cost us like $120 at the end. However, it was quite heavy. For one person wouldn't be able to move it. You would need help moving a hard shack easily. So that's also an option. It doesn't have to be pretty. And I suggest not going pretty, because there are some people out there who want to break into ice shacks. I don't know why. It happens. You'll hear of people burning down other people's ice shacks out of jealousy, envy. I don't know what the reason is. I don't really care, but it's sad to see. So if you are looking at investing in a hard shack, I suggest keeping it looking ghetto. I don't know how else to say that. Keep it looking ghetto, and maybe it won't get damaged or broke into. So that's shelter. Let's talk about heat, okay? There's lots of different things for heat that I'm aware of. Battery-powered heat's not going to work unless you're running a generator. And I don't know of many battery-powered heaters other than clothing and attire. So you've got wood heat. You can get wood, Home Depot, Canadian Tire, all these places get shipments on pallets, and then they're trying to get rid of busted, non-usable pallets. You can get free wood there, so you can burn. And then Princess Auto has a wood stove. I think it's $200. But if you're using that inside of a tent, you're going to need to get a window attachment so that the heat doesn't melt the tent with the exhaust. And then you're going to have to haul that wood with you. So when the ice gets thick enough on a truck, no problem. Throw it all in the truck and give her. But if you're going light like I do, propane. I like using propane heat. It is a bit moister, which can make your tenting damp. So you have to typically dry it out in between uses. But there's different brands. You've got Mr. Heater and you have Remington. I've used both. I've had Buddy Heater, and now I have a Heat Hog. They're virtually the same thing, except the Remington Heat Hog has a curved face on its ceramic heater, and it can tilt up and down, whereas the Buddy it is what it is. So the Buddy, I would have it placed up on a milk crate upside down. The Remington unit, you can just tilt it up away from the ice, because what's going to happen with the Buddy, if you just set it down on the ice, it's just going to heat up the ice, and then you're going to have a sauna in there. Whereas if you had it a little up off the ice, it'll heat up the air instead. A carry case, I've never taken one, and I think maybe because I didn't take a carrying case, that's the reason why my Buddy heaters never lasted. I always had problems with the Buddy heaters, with thermocouplers. That's one thing. I take a butane torch, and when if I'm having problems getting any heater going, I use my butane torch just to heat the thermocoupler with a butane torch, and then I don't have any problems after that. So you can have, again, Mr. Heater has a sunflower. You just it goes right on top of the propane tank, and then it just heats up. The other way is those little green propane tanks. They can go inside a Buddy heater. You can have a double Buddy heater that's got a fan on it. I don't even know if they do the fan anymore, but there's lots of forums on Reddit about modifying Buddy heaters, and then you can get those kinetic fans that heat up and then blow air. So that's an option too. That's pretty cool. Again, with heat, I would get something reliable. My opinion is I've had more seasons with my Remington heat hog than I ever have out of my buddy heater. I'm on year 3 with my Remington heat hog without anything breaking in it, treating it the same way I did my buddy Mr. Heater buddy heater. And I went through 2 of those. One made it 1 season, one made it 2 seasons before they were unusable. So, but a carrying case might be the difference. So there's that. Diesel heaters, I haven't personally used them, but I've seen people using them. You'll use about 10 gallons of diesel for a day worth of heat, typically with them. And from the people that I've talked to who've had them, they say they're okay. They work fine, no issues. If you're doing an overnighter and you need silence for sleeping, that might not be the way you want to roll. So that's all the heat sources that I am currently aware of. You got your diesel heater, you've got wood heat, and you've got propane heat. I guess you could do a kerosene heater as well. That's another option. I've heard of people in smaller shacks using, if you ever do fondue, you can get those little gel pucks. You can light those on fire. They're self-contained. They'll burn for about an hour, 2 hours. They'll work, but it's an open flame. So something to be conscientious of there as well. So heat is not essential, but if you're doing long periods in really cold temperatures or really extreme temperatures, I recommend the heat. Again, comfort. Make sure you're comfortable, and make sure you've read the instructions for each device that you do choose to get. There's always sales too. Keep an eye out for that. Don't just knee-jerk go, hey, Sir Fish-A-Lot, Corey said go get this. That's not what I'm saying. Just watch for sales, because there's always sales. I know the Remington Heat Hog is quite pricey, but I did get it on sale for quite a good deal at Canadian Tire, so that does happen from time to time. What I'm going to talk about next, let's get into the conversation of electronics. Are electronics required for ice fishing? Absolutely not. You don't need a flasher. You don't need a live scope. I mean, is it going to catch you more fish? No, it's not. And anybody who tells you differently has forgotten what it's like to fish without them. And what I mean by that is, I've got a live scope. I've used the live scope, and I go out and I find fish. You know what? The fish decide whether they're hungry or not. The fish decide if they're biting. You can be on them. You can be in a location where they're at, but if they're not biting, that device isn't helping you to catch the fish, is it? It's giving you information, so maybe the fish don't like the hook that you're using. That's the information you can get, and that can lead you to potentially, and I say that, potentially having more success. But it's not required for ice fishing. It really isn't. Your maps is just as important, or probably more important. Learning how to look for structure and weed edges, and so if you're on a sandy bottom lake and you find a place that has stone and gravel, well, chances are you're going to find where fish are, because it's going to be a different kind of substrate. So just things like that are almost more or as important. I would say more important than any kind of electronic. The nice thing about electronics, though, not manually having to find the depth that you're in to figure out where you want to put your hook. So if you're doing it the old school way, a weight on the line, drop it down, pinch where the line is at the surface of the ice, and then just keep pulling out and figure out there, and then figure out your depth. So typically you want to be about a foot off bottom, so you would just match that with your line and then drop down and then be about a foot off bottom. I say foot off bottom because most of the fish cruise along the bottom and then they look up and attack. So that would be typical. But if you're going for trout, you want to go in the middle of the column. So if you're in 5 feet of water, electronics help you to figure that out. You go 2 feet down. You set it on your jaw jack and forget it. And then you sit in the shack all comfortable having coffee and you wait for the bite. And you wait. And you wait. And you wait. So we've talked about heat, tents, clothing, rods, hooks. We can talk about hooks. Depending on the regulations for each body of water and what you're targeting, that's what your hooks are going to dictate. If you're going out for northern pike, and I do suggest going out for northern pike, especially in March, I have a quick strike rig on here. It's kind of a mess right now. Don't worry about it. You can make your own quick strike rigs, or you can buy them. I've just bought this one. And you put your bait on it, and then you go. So this setup here, you know, this hook setup, these aren't expensive, these quick strike rigs. You can just use a treble on a regular line and then have one hook on your bait. So your cost there is really going to be your bait, and you're going to want to go with something, you know, fairly large. You're going to want to go with something between, I would say 6 to 8 inches in size. And you're going to want to look for like a Cisco or a smelt. I wouldn't go to something super exotic like a mackerel. You can catch using them, but odds are the fish are going to be a little suspicious of that. So your bait's going to be your main cost with that kind of a target. You can go with jig heads. I've started to swap out. I don't use lead heads that much anymore. I'm more so into the tungsten. Because of rules and regulations on certain bodies of water, you're only allowed to use tungsten. And for me personally, I find downsizing your hooks for ice fishing seems to be better, yield more results. And then tungsten has the weight but not the size profile, so that fits that perfectly. So when you're jigging, you can just feel that little tug of at the end of the jig, and you can feel where the hook is a little bit easier, or as much, just in a smaller profile. Spoons are great. Spoons are cheap. You can go to Dollarama and grab a 5-pack of spoons of whatever. They work for walleye. Throw a piece of minnow on there, salted minnow, and you're golden. You don't have to break the bank on it. I know there's some popular companies that really push product on YouTube and social media and things like that. Do they work? Yeah, they work. They work about as good as, you know, another spoon. They don't work any better. You still have to have the right bait at the right time with the right fish. So, and the right spot. And guess what? Because you're ice fishing, you can get to the right spot now. So, you don't need to break the bank going and buying every fancy hoo-ha and what. If you're going for walleye, you can use a searching bait like a snap wrap. Okay, searching bait's gonna get you gliding the bait around in an area underneath the ice, going all over the place. Snap wraps are great for that. Are they pricey? Yes, but you know what? $12 hook. If you were to go buy yourself that walleye, it would cost you $20 to start off with, and that's for one person. Enough fish for one person. So $12 for a hook, $12 $20 for a fish in the store, right? Rip and wrap. You've got lipless cranks. You know, they've got, if the bites, you know, fish are far away, you get a little bit of a rattle going on there. That rattle can attract, but it can also repel some fish too. I've seen that. Fish hear that and then they take off. There's lots of different kinds of hooks, and your budget will dictate what you can do. Lots of people like different things, so another thing, you know, for ice fishing, if you're just getting into it and you want to get the rod, you get the rod. That's great. You don't have, but you spend your money on the rod and you don't have anything else for a holder or whatever, you can use a bobber. If you're a summer fisher person, you've got a bobber. You throw the bobber inside the ice hole and you watch it. Now, the ice, you might not notice this, but with the wind going, the ice is actually floating up and down on top of the water, and it is still moving. And you'll notice the water in the hole as you walk around it. The water in the hole is going to go up and down. You don't need to jig that, right? You just use your bobber, and your bobber will also be an indicator of a fish on, just like it is in the summertime. A lot of people overlook that when they're ice fishing. Some people like to use foam indicators. Those work just fine, okay? So you don't need all the fancy gadgets either for fishing. Ice line. You know what? I think this is the first time I've actually bought ice line. What do I have here? Suffix Invisalign ice fluorocarbon. I like 8-pound. Doesn't matter what I'm fishing for. 8-pound fluoro is gonna manage most of the fish that I'm going after. And if the fish is heavier than 8 pounds, say like a big pike, I'm typically using heavy line. I think I have 80-pound braid on here. So it's already rigged up and ready to go for a bigger fish. I carry a lot of extra gear because I'm filming YouTube while I'm out. So like power boxes and things like that, you know, if you're trophy hunting, a cell phone's all you need. Just make sure it's charged. Or take a small little battery bank that you can get from Canadian Tire or something like that, just to charge it up while you're out on the ice. Pliers. I recommend getting some longer pliers, because with some of the methods that I've talked about in this video, you have a real danger of gut hooking the fish. So the mouth that you see isn't exactly like how, it's pretty close to how we work. Those lips of the fish are like our lips here, but they have a secondary throat hole, and that's their gut. So the hook can get caught in there. So if you want to save the fish and release the fish, you have to act quick. Have long pliers. See, these are quite long, and be able to get into the fish's mouth in order to unhook that hook and then get the fish back in the water as fast as possible to minimize stress, blood loss, and all that stuff. Okay, so I recommend long pliers. That would be an absolute must in my kit for ice fishing, even summer fishing too. In closing, I really like ice fishing. Like I said at the beginning of this video, ice fishing for me was a way to get to the areas I always wanted to as a shore fisherman. Target, you know, structure, target depths that I really wanted to target to get specific fish. So I'm a big fan of ice fishing. I'm a fan of fishing in general, obviously. I don't get discouraged by ice fishing season. I encourage everyone to try it out, and I hope the information that is provided in this video can help you to have a more enjoyable experience, gain some knowledge before you go out on the ice. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and you learned something new, help us out by giving us a subscribe, please. We have more content that'll be coming out here right away. Planning on ice fishing quite a bit at Clear Lake, Manitoba, targeting whitefish. I think that's the next species on my bucket list. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.